Last week, we talked about creating game assets using a sketch-like approach. In this video, we are going to take a first look at a second method, drawing with shapes. The idea behind this technique is to avoid sketching the outlines of your assets. Instead, we are going to play with their shapes or silhouettes right away. This is an approach that concept artists love to use. It is a great way to generate very strong silhouettes and poses fast. As I said in the last video, this is an approach that painters are comfortable with. Traditional painters have to visualize their characters' silhouettes to put them down on the canvas. This makes sense as they generally use a somewhat thick brush to paint. At least they cover the canvas faster with a brush than using a pen. For an experienced painter, drawing outlines first is often a slowdown. Vector artists are also familiar with that technique. By nature, most vector tools are shape-friendly more so than sketch-friendly. In any case, working with shapes and silhouettes is an efficient way to create game assets. There are a few ways we can approach silhouette-based game asset creation. We can use selection tools, in particular the lasso selection, brushes, this is probably the one tool concept artists use the most, and custom shapes or stencils. Today, we are going to see how we can use selections. You may ask, why selections? Selection tools simply give us an uncluttered drawing experience. You can very quickly not only add, but also subtract and intersect selections together. Selections also force you to visualize your shapes before drawing them, which is great. As digital artists, we tend to lack opportunities to train our visualization skills. But they are essential, in particular for designers and visual storytellers. With selections, you cannot simply draw random shapes. You cannot lay down lucky strokes on the canvas and try to extend them like you would with a brush. You have to think about the shape you are going to select before you draw it. The power of selections goes beyond that. On top of filling the selection, you can simply paint inside it with a brush. This opens up a wide array of possibilities. There are two selection tools we are going to focus on, the freehand lasso and the polygonal lasso. Although the rectangular and circular selection tools are useful too, a game artist rarely needs them to create silhouettes. The freehand lasso tool, as its name suggests, is a freehand selection tool. Its default shortcut is the L key. I personally assigned it to the Q key, which I can tap with my fourth finger. Once you have selected the tool, you just have to click and drag on the canvas to draw a selection. Once you release your click, the selection is automatically closed. The polygonal lasso tool only slightly differs from its freehand counterpart. With it, you don't drag the mouse freely around the canvas to draw a selection. Instead, you click to define points and segments of selection. You can use as many points as you want. Whenever you click on the first point or control-click, you close the selection, which creates a selection polygon. You can also close the selection by pressing Enter. The polygonal lasso is useful whenever you need to create mechanical objects, buildings, rocks, etc. It can also be useful for stylistic effects, if you want to make a chunky art style, for instance. In Photoshop, you can combine polygonal and freehand selections at the same time with the polygonal lasso tool. You simply need to hold the Alt key down and click and drag. It's a bit like using the vector pen tool, but with a fast, forward-only approach. You cannot edit your selection as you can edit a vector shape. It gets some time getting used to, so be sure to practice this technique a bit. In all good digital drawing software, and in Photoshop in particular, you can combine selections in a few ways. With any selection tool, you can add selections, subtract selections, and intersect selections. The most common Boolean operation with selections is probably the addition. In Photoshop, you can easily add a selection to an existing one. If you keep the Shift key down while you have a selection tool active, you will see a little plus sign next to your cursor. This means that the selection you're going to make will be added to the existing selection. There are two other operations available with selections: subtraction and intersection. To subtract a selection, you simply need to keep the Alt key down with any selection tool active. A little minus icon should appear next to your cursor. To get the intersection of two selections, you want to keep both the Shift and Alt keys down at the same time. A multiply sign should show up next to your cursor. That's it for this video. This week I decided to focus on talking about the tools only. I want to give the example process its own video. It's a bit like separating theory and practice. So what do you think? Do you like this choice? Please tell me in the comments below. There are numerous ways to draw with shapes. Future videos will be dedicated to other tools like the custom shape tools and the vector pen tool. Working with selections is pretty hard to get into at first, in particular if you don't have a background in painting. So if you want to try it, give it some time. You can experiment with just some or all of the techniques exposed in this video. What matters the most is that you take your time and enjoy the process. If you like the video and want to see more, you can become one of my channel subscribers. And don't hesitate to become a follower as well on social networks. Thank you for watching.